Keenan Yildiz, of course, is the other one. Spoke about it on the show yesterday. Arsenal's very interested in Keenan Yildiz, said to be Mikel Arteta's ideal target. The journalist Sasha Tevallari yesterday, he's claiming that Arsenal are going to try and sign Yildiz before the window shuts. They haven't given up hope on him, despite the fact that he's got a contract that runs till 2030 that was recently signed. They haven't given up hope of signing Yildiz and are going to try and make a move. He said in the coming days they were going to be making contact with Juventus to try and get a deal done, because there's not really been any contact yet. It's just been lots of rumours flying around, but we know there is interest from Arsenal. Will they make those approaches in the coming days? Again, that's something we're going to have to wait and see. But again, another deal that's so difficult to get done, but difficult deals can get done. Look at Bruno Guimaraes, you know, difficult deals can get done. So we're going to have to wait and see how that one develops. Now, some good news we were hearing yesterday is that Jurrien Timber could be back in training this week. That's according to BBC Sport. They're claiming that he's set to return to first team training. That is great news for Arsenal, because, you know, we have really missed this guy. He is a top, you know, right back, and very, very important for Arsenal. However, that still doesn't mean that Arsenal are not looking for players to cover off both him or to cover off, you know, the fact that William Saliba is going to be missing for a significant amount of time. Ezri Konsa, on the other hand, I spoke about it yesterday and said that, you know, Arsenal are looking to get this deal wrapped up. The former Aston Villa chief executive, Keith Wyness, he was speaking to Football Insider 247, and he said, and remember, he's a, you know, as I said, insider at Villa, he said that he's heard that Arsenal have already agreed terms with Konsa, and that they're likely to sign him by next week for around about £50 million. We know that Villa have been looking for 60. We know that Arsenal, you know, what we heard, their original bid was 30. Compromise on around about 50, something I've been talking about and saying that I feel could happen for a long time. He's seeming to say that that's what he heard is going to happen. Let's wait and see, but he, you know, he should know, he should have his ear to the ground. Now, what else is going to happen with Ethan Nwaneri? We're all upset that, you know, he could be leaving. We get it, because where's he going to play? He definitely needs to play football, like Mikel Arteta says. But the latest club to be linked with him is Liverpool. Liverpool interested in signing Ethan Nwaneri. Aston Villa also interested. We know Dortmund, Leipzig over there in the Bundesliga want him as well. But Liverpool. Now, would you sell Ethan Nwaneri to a rival like Liverpool? Liverpool are definitely a rival. Would you sell Ethan Nwaneri to Liverpool? I wouldn't want to see that happen. I mean, you know, that could come back and bite you. You know, I mean, it starts to give me Serge Gnabry vibes, even though he went abroad. But look how good Gnabry turned out to be. I don't really want to see Ethan Nwaneri going to Liverpool. Probably I don't really want to see him go to Villa either, unless it's a loan. But those are the two latest clubs to be linked with him. Villa very interested, apparently. So one we're going to have to wait and see how that one develops out. And Lewis-Skelly, it was good to hear from the Arsenal CEO, Richard Garlick, yesterday. He dismissed rumours linking Lewis-Skelly with a move away. He said that Arsenal are very, very happy with the 19-year-old and praised his development. And certainly, definitely doesn't look like Lewis-Skelly will be leaving before the end of this transfer window, which is good news for all Arsenal fans, because we don't want any of those two to leave, really.
And we finally have a breakthrough in the negotiations between Arsenal and Aston Villa for Ezri Konsa, or at least we're close to one. I don't think this would be coming out from David Ornstein if this deal wasn't really looking like it was going to happen. Here's what he said: that Arsenal are closing in on a deal to sign Ezri Konsa from Aston Villa. 28-year-old defender is high on Arsenal's target list all summer, and work now advancing with Aston Villa to finalise after dialogue at ownership level to reduce valuation gap for England international. We're going to break down this tweet in a bit of detail, because there's actually quite a lot of really interesting bits of insight. We're just going to skip past this from Sammy Mockbell, because this is an exclusive on Ethan Nwaneri, which we'll talk about in a sec. But just to add to the Konsa story, Hand of Arsenal said that as stated, Konsa was always a preferred target as Arsenal looked to close the valuation gap. Player recently returned from summer break. Personal terms no issue at all. Arsenal prefer Premier League experience in the absence of key injuries. Okay, more on this Nwaneri stuff in a sec. But I want to break down here what David Ornstein has said. Some interesting lines. Because this really feels like it has been the summer of intermediaries, or for whatever reason, not going club to club. We're closing a deal for Konsa. We know he's been a big target. I mean, all the way since June, Arsenal have been interested in doing this deal. And it was Matt Law, who people keep telling me isn't a good source. It was Matt Law who broke that news first. So, dialogue at ownership level to reduce valuation gap. So, we heard that Arsenal were looking at more like 30-35 million. And Villa wanted 60. I thought a deal might get done at 50-55, but the later we went in this window, they were being really strong, Villa, on, no, we're not moving away from 60 million. A week ago, we heard that they were stepping up their efforts, Arsenal, and they must do that with some sort of encouragement, either from the player side or the club, that something could happen. Well, it looks like we've got that breakthrough now. Now, the fee hasn't been thrown around as much as I can see. I'm sure that will be coming out in the coming hours as more journalists get hold of this story. But I would imagine it's 50 to 55 million. I hope we don't go through another saga of Villa journalists like Newcastle journalists saying no club-to-club talks. Villa claim there's absolutely nothing close here. It looks like Arsenal are going about things in a different way, whether that's right or wrong. And by the way, I've got some criticisms about the way Arsenal are doing business. That's out on a video that I've actually just recorded. It's going to be out a little bit later, looking at sales, Martinelli, the way he's been treated and everything like that. That will be out later. But it does look like on the buying front, we're doing things a little bit differently too. So, let's react to this. Ezri Konsa, what do I think of the player? Well, I've talked about him in quite a bit of detail across various videos, whether it be after review with Sharoy, whether it be loose cannons, where I was really quite staunchly against Jordan and Turkish, defending the idea of signing a centre-back, and I've actually defended him to others. I think I was talking to FK on Latifel when I was saying, no, I rate the player. My concern with this deal has always been, what does it take away in terms of funds for a forward? If you're going to spend 50 to 60 million on a centre-back. My other concern was, are we better off getting a right-back that's going to give us a different dimension, so White or Timber can cover at centre-back, you don't get in the way of Mosquera's development, all this stuff was up in the air. However, I've had some time to think about it. With Lewis-Skelly quite clearly a central midfielder now, with Calafiori and Cappier sharing the load at left-back, there is no cover for Gabriel. Now, you could say Mosquera can cover by himself. You could say that one of Nkapie or Calafiori can dip in, but you've got Ben White injury prone, Timber injured, Calafiori injury prone, Saliba injured. I mean, that's 4 defenders who can all play at centre back. Wiped out all players you can't rely on for a 38-game Premier League season. I understand why Arsenal, when they look at the last 2 years of injury history for White and Calafiori, I can understand why they don't want to bank on those two players as much as Arteta and Arsenal clearly rate them.